Welcome back to Home Sweet Home Cooking. I'm your host Rocky in my mother's kitchen as always. My mother is behind me. She's on potato duty again today because we're doing again the number one dish off the Southern Essentials food list, which Southerners said that everybody in the South should know how to cook, which is of course fried chicken. Last week we did this with an egg wash and just a flour coating. Today we're going to do a second type of fried chicken where we actually make a batter. We'll flour the chicken and we'll put it into a wet batter to make the crust on the chicken that way. So easy to do, kind of same as the last time, but first you've got to get your chicken and you've got to get it cut up. Last time when I did this I had a little difficulty because of I said you need a good kitchen shear to do it, and my mom didn't have a good kitchen shear, so I struggled a little bit. So I'm going to go back to the old school way that I used to do it without kitchen shears. To do that, you're going to start with the thighs. You're going to run your knife down a slot like you did, but this time because your knife or your chicken isn't cut up yet, you're going to have to go down and find the joint between the thigh and the backbone. You can peel it back and pop it, and then you're going to cut through, and that's going to take the backbone out of your thigh as well. So you got one thigh, you can do the same to the other side. And it would really help to have a sharp butcher knife.
Shut up.
One of these days I want to buy one to rate on the show, and we'll try to get some better knives here. This is a cut coach. It's pretty good for what it is. Alright, so I'm going to peel it back again, pry it back, pop the joint, bone out of the joint, and then just take the knife and cut through along the backbone. And then you'll have, and I'll get through there. Like I said, a sharp knife would help. Actually, I'm going through a little bit of bone. Alright, so I got your two thighs and drumsticks. Now this, you're going to pull the breast up, and you're going to take from, going to kind of hold the backbone. This time I'm going to cut down the skin along the inside of the breast cavity, following those ribs and where the meat is thick on the ribs. I'm going to follow that up to the front where the wings are. Pull that back. You're going to find that wing joint, cut through. Got to find that wing joint there and cut through. And just cut your breast off once you get through that wing joint. There's that joint. And then you'll have a little bit of the wishbone left, a little piece of the neck stuck in there. Once you pop through that wishbone, your breast will pop free. And the wings, you just take off of the backbone. And again, if you're doing broths and soups, you save that backbone. You can put that in when you stew the chicken, you boil it, and you get good flavor. Now this one here, to split, I'm going to go again like I did last time. I'm going to find the notch in the keel bone. Just going to push down straight, and this time I'm just going to push all the way through and leave the bones in the breast. And you'll have your two breasts. You'll have two wings. Go back to your thighs, find the joint between the thigh and the drumstick. And you're done. I should do the chicken this way all the time. It's that much easier, that much faster. I shouldn't have trusted your kitchen shears. But again, you don't need the kitchen shears to do the chicken. You can just do it with a decent, you gotta have a decent size. You're gonna need to get some leverage in there. But that's another way to dissect the kitchen. Probably the easiest way that I know how, without having to use extra tools. Again, save your neck, save your backbone. Eat your giblets and your liver. You can even eat the heart, or if not, just put that in your soup stock or make your giblet dressing if you want to save that for your chicken and cornbread dressing. So, gonna get this set up for the fryer, and we'll be back when we're ready to cook. I lied. Before we go to getting set up to fry, my mom and I discussed with my mom, the rest of these pieces, the thighs are kind of small because we took that thigh bone or the backbone out of it, and these breasts are pretty big. So we're going to split these breasts in half. It's going to help with the cooking times being a little more even, so you don't have to cook them as long. It'll also help keep the breast, hopefully keep the breast from drying out. So you just want to run your knife through the skin, down to the bone, and give it a little whack, and you're through. And that's just the easiest way to split breast. Now, the one piece of breast, the skin may not stay on all the way. Hopefully, we can get that to stick on with the breading. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get cleaned up and get this ready for the breading portion, and then set up for the fryer. Alrighty, the chicken is cut. Counter's cleaned. Time to start working on the breading, or the batter. Technically both. Going to start with, last time I did it, starting with flour and cornstarch. This time I'm actually going to use a seasoned breading mix. I like House Autry as a base. It says seasoned, but it's really kind of not. Not seasoned enough for my liking. So again, I'm going to take and add seasonings to it, kind of like I did last week for the egg wash chicken. There's going to be a pretty good amount in here because it's going to go both breading, and then I'm going to add water to it to make a thin batter. Not really thin. It's going to be kind of like a loose pancake batter. So make sure I got plenty in there. I'm going to do about half a bag. I may have to add more. Again, some savory. So some poultry seasoning. White pepper. I should have got the top off camera because it's always been a pain. And again, there's a lot of flour in here. So this is pre-seasoned, so I don't have to add as much as last week, but you're still going to have to add a decent amount to it.
You didn't tell me what it was.
What?
Black pepper.
Black pepper, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to be on there. Same as last week. Black pepper, white pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, poultry seasoning, and I'm using some seasoned salt. This is my seasoned salt, Mongo's Fire Salt. With it's got some garlic powder and powder in it, but it's also got cayenne, chipotle, and ancho chili powder, and salt, and paprika. So there's some salt in here, so you don't want to go ahead and salt this yet. I didn't even get the salt out because this may be enough salt in this one. I'm just gonna give it a mix till all the color specks are through it. Got a couple clumps of onion powder in there. And give it a taste. Okay, I can taste the seasoning, that's good. Like I said, I didn't need as much seasoning as I did last week. Quit laughing. Because this was kind of, it does have some seasoning in it, just not a whole lot. It has corn flour, the yellow corn flour is fantastic in breading. Salt, soy flour, whey, spices. And dried egg. So, dried egg also helps in the batter too because it acts almost like an egg wash when you put the liquid to it. So this is done. You want to drop your pieces of chicken in it and get them powdered. I've got a half sheet with a rack. I want to get these coated with flour first before we make the batter. Like I say, these are the split point ends of the breast. The skin is not going to stay on there the greatest. Just try to do the best you can. These are the fat end of the breast, where the wing was. That skin is going to stay on a little better, but it's going to have a tendency to try to slide. So you have to be careful when you're cooking it too. And next, I'm just going to add some water to this. Mom, can you grab me a fork or a whisk and a 1 cup measuring cup of water? The metal with the glass on would be fine. And thank you. Right after she sat down. I timed this perfectly.
Yes.
And if you notice, I'm kind of doing this mostly one-handed. I sliced my finger last night a little bit, so I'm trying to keep my cut out of the chicken as much as I can.
And he wants a better knife.
It
wasn't my knife.
I didn't cut myself on a knife though. I cut myself actually.
Right.
Yeah, I cut myself on a reaching into my drawer to get the package of foil out, and I cut my finger on the wax paper cutter. And if you've ever cut yourself on one of those, the metal ridge is serrated and it is sharp. Cut this one a little bit. Keep that finger weight up. And
Foil
again,
has ridges.
I'm going to do the knot again in my wing to make them more of a solid mass. So they fry a little bit slower. And they fry evenly. Okay. Perfect. Now, I can add some water. I'm just going to keep adding water and mixing it. So I say you got that thin pancake batter consistency. Definitely need more. And you want it smooth. That's about the consistency you're looking for, where it runs freely. Alright, so I'm going to set this aside. I'll let that sit for a while to make sure it absorbs with all the flour and gets to a good consistency. These I'm just going to let tack up, and now I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned off again, get my slices put away, and get the fryer set up, and then we'll be frying shortly. Again, we're going to use whatever oil you want. You can use lard, shortening vegetable oil, peanut oil. This is going to be a mixture of last week's oil. We filtered it off, strained it off, and we're probably going to have to add some more shortening to it. And just so we have about almost half of that frying pan full of oil, maybe about a third. Get that starting to go, and then when the oil comes up to temp, I'll come back and we'll do the dropping of the chicken. Alright, the oil is up to right about 330. You want it somewhere between 325 and 350 to start cooking, and that's about where you want to maintain it. You don't want to go much above 350, and you don't want to drop much below 300. You want to keep it in that zone. So it is thinned out. I add a little more water to it. It is a thin pancake batter. And you're going to take your chicken. It should be a little bit tacky from sitting. I'm just going to drop it in. Find a spot you can kind of hold it. And let some of that drain off. That skin is sliding. Try it the other way. Keep the skin back on there. Use that batter like a glue to hold the skin on. You want to lay it in the oil. Again, don't drop it towards you. I'm doing breasts first this time because the breasts are that much bigger than the thighs. You want to do your biggest piece of meat first. Oven is preheating 200 degrees. That way we can do this in batches and it'll hold the temperature. And I think that's another split breast. And that's all we're going to do is we're just going to put it in there. I'm going to keep turning it to keep it from getting over brown on one side. Keep checking the temperature. And as they get close to that 160 mark, 165 degree internal temperature, I'm going to start putting them back on this rack, and then this rack will go in the oven once we get to that point. So we'll be back when this is all flipped and turned and give you a close-up look at what this one looks like, and then we'll give it a taste. We'll burn our mouths on this one for sure, because this one here, being the batter like this, it holds its heat pretty good. So we'll be back in just a moment. Some of the chicken is temping lower than the others, but it's starting to get dark brown, which means those are going to be going into the oven. You don't want them to burn. I mean, that's not burnt. That's just a little bit of pan bottom on there. But I don't want the chicken itself to get too overdone. So we're going to pull these. And like I said in the last video, as you pull chicken, or if you pull items from a fryer, from a pan, as you pull, you want to add your next batch before you get the pan empty. Otherwise, you're going to have your oil's going to heat up too fast, because you take all the food out while you're getting the next food ready to go. So as I pull chicken, I'm going to be adding chicken. And these, once they're on this pan over here, on a rack, up off the bottom. You don't want them sitting on paper towel. You put a piece of paper towel over the metal rack, but you don't want them sitting on paper towel right on a surface or something. That's going to trap moisture in there when they steam, and that's going to make them soggy, and you don't want that. You want the chicken breading to stay crisp. So just a rack over a cookie sheet is what we're using to put them in the oven. And I already got the wings in there. I had a little bit of room when I was able to start moving them around. And I've got the drumsticks in. We'll get these cooked off and get them all in the oven there till they stay crispy. And that last bit of cooking goes up to 160. We can monitor the temperature in the oven, but that's going to keep them from getting burnt. So we'll be back in just a few moments. All right, so it is out of the oven. I'm going to temp everything again. Yep, that's good. That's good. It's all good. So this chicken here, this is the breast that was in the oven the longest, holding. Let's see if there's any crunch left to that.
That's a thigh.
There's still some crisp left. And juicy chicken. Cooked through nice and good. Wow. And the flavor, I like the flavor of this better than the other one. Still a young chicken. Chicken flavor isn't fully developed, but I kind of like this batter style breading over the egg wash. They're both good. So this is a batter styled Southern fried chicken. It's more like the cross between a fried fish and a chicken breading, and that's what gives it that batterish taste. But this came up as another way that Southerners do it, so this is number 2 on the list of the Southern fried chicken, which is number 1 on the Southern Essentials list. So this is done. Next week, or a week and a half from now, 2 weeks, we'll have the final video, which is just going to be soaked in buttermilk and breaded with flour, and it'll be a third. And I don't know if I'll do a comparison video later, but it's time to eat, so we're going to get over to the table and have some chicken. Good night.